Hello.
Hello. Let me.
We didn't even have Susan waiting back over in YouTube for half an hour today.
Oh,
Where's Holly and Susan?
this is retrograde for sure.
Holly was on the golf course today. Oh, hi, Sonia.
Hi,
There's
Sonia.
Susan. We were wondering where you were. All right, let me get this refreshed and shared across all our stuff. Hi, Catherine. Click the wrong notification. That's okay. You're over in YouTube. That helps too.
Hi. Hi, Holly.
Hi, Holly. We were wondering where you were. How was the golf course today? Hi, Susan on YouTube. Susan's holding it down on YouTube and on Facebook for us because we created a YouTube channel for our stuff now. So a couple of them do that for us because they're so sweet.
Yeah, we appreciate that so much.
And Haley's here. That's my daughter.
Hi, Haley. Let's see.
What's up, Patrick?
That's your daughter, the Sagittarius?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. With a Scorpio Scorpio moon and Cancer rising.
Dude, I bet it's sweaty. I was telling Kristen when I went to the chiropractor after doing some volunteering at the food bank, my back was sweaty. I felt gross. I was telling the girl, I'm sorry, my back is sweaty. Okay.
It's been hot here today too. It's cooling off finally now. Susan says hi.
It didn't hit 115 here, so it's chilly.
Yeah.
John is in Vegas right now for work, so he is streaming from Vegas, and I told him I do not envy him.
No.
89 humid, dang, Holly. That's not so bad though. At least the humidity makes it worse though. Patrick hasn't popped into YouTube yet, Susan. Ooh, she's tattling on you, Patrick. Hello, Catherine on Facebook now.
Thank you. Thank you for saying that.
Holly's in Massachusetts, and she's decided she doesn't want to live any further south.
That's all right, Holly. I'm a masshole, and I get it.
Okay.
My aunt and my cousin always called it massive two shits. Bear with us, guys.
Sorry, almost done.
Triggered. Putting us on TV, but you want to be in the chat there. That's perfect and acceptable. Thank you, Catherine.
Well, Patrick's already stolen my thunder, so what's the point of my being here again?
Where the hell are they? No, what the heck? Sorry, I lost something I was doing.
Hi, Jasmine. Hi, Linda. Great to see you.
Yes, Holly, that's true. People are massholes.
I've never heard that. So.
Yep, that's what they call us.
That is awesome. I'll remember that now. I've never been to Massachusetts either.
It's nice if you can afford to live there.
It's what? Nice if you don't live there?
Nice if you can afford to live there.
Oh,
The Boston area is one of the most expensive housing areas in the whole country now.
really?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
it rivals San Francisco.
Patrick's in San Francisco, and Frisco is expensive. But I heard New York was super high too, like $3,000 a month for a tiny little apartment, like Tic Tac box.
Yep, pretty much.
That's terrible.
Yeah, it is. And Holly's right. If you want to get treated poorly, if you want someone to flip you off, go to Massachusetts. That's pretty much the traditional greeting there.
That used to be California, but I think people are a lot more friendly now that weed's been legalized there.
Mhm. Oh, I
So
bet.
they're more chill, more hippie-ish surfer type, you know. Not everywhere, of course, but the general collective, I guess you could say. 23.50 a month for rent in Boston for nothing. Dang. Ugh.
All right. It was hard work. Bam.
Now Patrick's on YouTube too, fulfilling his duties.
What did I? All right.
You guys
So.
are our boots on the ground. Thank you.
All right. Well, since I think I did everything I needed to do, I can just get into these cards real quick since we got some. I don't know what we got from John today. We have houses. What are they?
4
10,
and 10.
4 and 10.
4 and 10. 4 and 10. So we'll see what we're about to hear today. Let's start these. Oops, sorry. All right. So our first card that we have coming out, you guys, is the Ace of Cups. We have a lot of reversals lately. So it's probably this retrograde that's happening that you guys need to work through some shit. Because this is like you feeling um maybe like your cup is empty, it's upside down, so like things are not working for you right now. You could be feeling empty, blocked, maybe lonely. Maybe you're like blocked creatively, or even just like um where you're like maybe feeling blocked, like just like in everything, like you know what I mean, you know what I'm trying to say. I feel like I can't even find the words, like that's what I mean, you know, just yeah. Ugh, that that feeling. um and then the star is coming out for us in reverse, and this is some more of that, feeling of maybe like discouraged, or maybe you're feeling insecure and you're not confident in your badass bitch that you are. So you're just like, I don't know, you're lacking the faith. And then there's more of that Five of Wands energy coming out for, again, more chaos, more fighting, more people beating on each other with sticks. So, this is just really things coming up for us that we need to work through, because we also have some financial things coming up for us right here with this energy, because we're, we are what we attract. So what we're feeling, and when we're, feeling this loneliness or this lack or this, you know, competitive, where you're just like, oh, they have this and I don't have that, like you're literally giving power to that create to that reality. And this Nine of Pentacles is coming out for us in reverse as well, which normally that's a really good card, that's a really good wish card. It's like, well, these things, she's picking her harvest, she's got all this shit coming up, but right now you're lacking some shit, you're lacking funds, you're lacking confidence, you're feeling like you're not even like having any like good luck at anything, everything you're failing at. I just tried this shit and normally I'd be really good at it, but you know what, it's retrograde. We having things come up for us that are really sucking, or maybe you're just making bad choices. If you're trying to invest in things right now, is not the freaking time. And if you are having to absolutely do it, be really, really smart about what you're doing and read the fucking fine print. We have this Two of Wands coming out for us, and this is just more energy of being stuck, of feeling like we're in this lack energy, things not working out for us. Maybe that's that fear of change that we were talking about the other day. We were supposed to be ready to go to battle, and then all of a sudden we're just kind of like pulling back. So it's like you're feeling really like, you know, indecisive. You're just like, I want to do it. I don't know. Stand for something or fall for fucking anything, okay? Stop trying to, you know, delay this shit. It has to happen, you know? You have to raise that vibration. You have to do that work. This new vibe, this new energy from the new earth, we can't be stuck in low shit anymore. We can't be stuck in this lack energy, this competitive energy, this chaos energy, this sad and feel sorry for me lack energy, This is not what we need right now, but these things are coming up. So when they are coming up for you, and these lessons, actually we have life lessons cards that I got from Kara. So Kara. I fucking never remember. You know what I mean. My dosha. I love her. So I bought some cards from her and we're about to read from these, and these are pretty fire too. But first we have to let us know all of this crappy ass energy that we're feeling, this stuck lonely shit. We got this six of sword coming for us in reverse, and this is us going forward. You see that? Because she's on that little boat with all them swords. And right now it's not like there's no holes in it. They're still moving. So this is you moving away from all of this trauma, this lack mindset, this competitive energy, this stuck energy, this creativity blocks, all the indecisions, all that shit. You're moving away from this now. Yay, things are better because look at there's a freaking sun right there and they're just going forward. So ride these waves because there are fucking waves. If you notice, there's waves in this picture. So, these things that are coming up for a ride the wave, all these things that are coming up, and the bottom of the deck energy is telling us that we are page of pentacles. So we're moving toward new things. This is new energy of maybe new jobs, new partnerships, new relationships, new friendships, maybe restored friendships with family if you want. There's potential for anything. So this is really, really beautiful. We also have coming up for us, this is the deck that I was talking about, our life lessons that are coming up for our soul's journey. We have love, through all of this crappy energy that we are moving away from. Love, you know, I commit to the practice of seeing the good in all things, but also in all people and in yourself. So love yourself through all of this crappy stuff that's coming up right now. Okay. Freedom is also coming up for us. I possess the power and the free will to create my own happiness. This is you making that decision with that six of swords energy to move forward, to move into better energy, to leave behind all this chaos, all this lack of funds, and you know everything that's not working for you, this insecurity, this discouragement, all of that crap. We have judgment coming out for us as well. I understand that everyone has their own unique path and challenges. So there's no need to judge anybody. We were talking about this the other day as well. Everybody's quest is so different, but we are all the leader. We are all the creator of our own reality. We control our own game, like I was talking about. You have your own cheat codes. So whatever somebody else is doing in their game, in their little stall or on their little screen, because it's got the split screen on the games too. Don't worry about that shit. You're doing what you're doing, okay? You're picking up your MO, you're doing your little life hacks, okay? Don't judge people because we don't know exactly what they had to do or what they are going through currently. So just like they don't know what you're going through. So just be, that loving energy that is coming out for us, and just be compassionate because compassion was coming out for us yesterday. So just make sure that you are being compassionate for other people and what they are going through. We have our very last card, psychic gifts, you guys. This is coming out for us, and this is to learn to trust your intuition. Look at all those freaking things that he's tapped into when he's like, using his gifts. These are the gifts that was at the bottom of the deck energy yesterday, when we leave behind all that other crappy energy that we're still working through right now. This is what you're able to tap into. You have to release those blockages and make way for your true self. Sometimes you can't tap into those energies until you've healed, worked through these shadows, loved yourself, been free of judgment of yourself and others. So, get ready for these things that are coming to you, these beautiful ass energies, these downloads, these gifts, that only you can possess and, um, use to create that reality. Like I said, for your game, for your happiness, I think that's what we've seen, something about creating realities. Or was that just yesterday? I don't know. But yes, you guys, let go of all this crappy ass energy. Whatever's coming up for you, be willing to let it go because you're moving toward that sun on that boat. Ride the waves, you guys. Love you.
Beautiful. Thank you. And very quick.
His thing, so I don't want to be all on here for 45 minutes.
Right.
I'm respecting your time, John. I know you're
Susan
busy,
says,
man. Oh,
I was blessed with beautiful new clothes, shoes, and necklaces today. The universe is
damn.
abundant, and we all need to plug in and accept it all. I am so grateful and
Absolutely. Love
abundantly
that
blessed.
for you. Hi, Suzanne. You're welcome, Sonia. Love you. Hi, Jay.
All right. Y'all, we have 3 of Swords showing up on the bottom of the deck. Right now is a time for healing. Healing often comes up during periods of revision. We've got the retrogrades, redoing shit, okay? Right behind that, we have Justice in the reverse as well. She's already thrown down the scales and the Sword of Truth. There's a butterfly on it signifying transformation. So this is talking about balance has been restored. You may be a bit not a fan of the outcome. It might have been not what you wanted, but what you needed. Okay. And that's from the eyes of spirit or from the eyes of the wider perspective. That is balance being restored. And you might have gotten the shitty end of the stick, honestly, because right behind that we have the 5 of Pentacles. Okay. This is feeling left out in the cold. This is feeling, depleted, rejected. But you've been torn down so that you can build yourself back up. We have Queen of Pentacles right behind that. Okay. Queen of Pentacles. Trust how this plays out. It might feel like defeat, or it might feel like you've been taken down a peg or two, but that's only so you can revise certain things. With the Fool card showing up in the reverse. This is the vice versa tarot deck too, by the way, John. You might be like, what? Those are reversals? Yeah, these are the reversals. So this is vice versa. This is the Fool in the upright position. And then the reversal is nighttime. Yeah, so trust how this plays out. You've got a shooting star. Wish on a star. 10 of Cups showing up in the reverse. I thought this was the Ace of Cups because that is this fountain that's on the Ace of Cups itself. So we've got 10 of Cups in the reverse. You're not satisfied with what's going on right now, how things are panning out, how things are manifesting for you, but you're not done. Keep going. You're almost there. Keep holding the vision. We've talked about holding the vision for the last several days now. You need to continue to hold your vision of what you want to manifest and match your beliefs up to the vibrational frequency of that thing having manifest. You need to balance yourself because you cannot manifest the outcome that you want if you're in that chaotic energy. That's been hitting everyone lately. So don't worry about it. Just keep fucking going because you're almost there. Judgment showing up in the reverse. This is after they've already stepped out of the coffins, like on the traditional judgment card. They're being called up out of those coffins to, face their judgment, basically. This is the other side of them stepping out of the coffins. They're headed towards their eternity. They're headed towards, relief. Stop looking for love and love yourself, showing up with the Moon in reverse. Things are happening. People's true colors are being shown, and you're being forced to love yourself more than wanting others to love you. And we talked about this recently also, I think it was yesterday, about being the doormat and sacrificing yourself to try to take care of others. That's not how we do things. We put our own oxygen mask on first, and then we take care of others. So stop. That's not fulfilling you. They're saying this is what you do for fulfillment, to feel like you're fulfilled, like you're serving a purpose. So you serve everyone else but yourself, but you're not feeling fulfilled because your cup ain't full. So no matter how much you give of an empty cup, you're not going to feel satisfied and fulfilled until you start pouring into yourself. Okay. Think about things differently with the Knight of Pentacles. You're sowing the seeds of the harvest you're going to reap in the future. Be mindful of the seeds you sow. Think about things differently, because your manifestations aren't coming to fruition in the way that you want, or they're backfiring. So you need to look at the energies, revise things, see what is off, imbalanced, and how you might completely be able to cut certain things out and do things a little bit differently to achieve a different outcome. Remember, we don't do insanity here, and that is doing the same thing over and over and again and expecting a different outcome. So do something differently. Think about your situation, change your perspective a little bit, and you're going to get there with that Knight of Pentacles. This relationship will last a lifetime. or a long time. Woo. Stay authentic. So this is coming into union with your highest self, the highest version of you, what you want to be, and existing as that, bringing your own vibrational frequency to match that of your highest self, your authentic self, and saying that this relationship is going to last a long time. So just keep going, keep focusing on yourself, balancing yourself, revising whatever you need to do in your life to achieve the outcome that you want. I love you. Let's hand it over to John. Hi, Lisa.
Thank you, ladies. Good evening, everybody. Nice to be back. Thanks again for the extra week. I had a couple things come up last week. Greetings from Las Vegas, where it is an extremely cold 109 degrees today. We are having, right, exactly. We are gathered here today to get through this thing called life. Exactly right, Patrick. Anyway, I'm happy to be here. We're going to be going over houses 4 and 10 this evening. I have a couple of example charts to work with. So let's get to it. All right. So just as a reminder, the planets in astrology are the what, the signs are the how, and the houses are the where. So again, when we see planets in certain houses, we know that certain areas of someone's life are going to get lit up. And ideally, well, when we look, you're going to see a lot of times that planets that are in that house are going, and those houses are going to be visible because these are houses 4 and 10. So when we did 1 and 7, I said there were 3 kinds of houses, right? Angular, succedent, and cadent. And angular houses are where there are things that are visible. So when you have things in the 4th and 10th, they're going to be likely visible to other people. And we'll talk about the 4th and 10th houses tonight. Like I said, I have a couple of pretty good charts to look at with you. And of course, I'll be prepared to take your questions because I know this audience and well, you always have a couple of curveballs to throw at me. So, okay. So let's start with the 4th house first.
To keep you on your toes.
Oh yeah. Well, you know, it's for me to prove that I'm not a big faker, that I didn't just make all this up. Okay. So one of the things about the 4th and 10th that you need to know is that sometimes there are differences in interpretation. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. So traditionally, the 4th house is considered the house of mom, and the 10th house is considered the house of dad. Now, depending on the astrologer you talk to, that may not be true. Sometimes what will happen is people will say the 10th house is the more dominant parent, and the 4th house is the more silent parent, or the parent that's less seen, more introverted. Sometimes people will say the 4th is the father and the 10th is the mother. I don't particularly ascribe to any of those as a general rule. I like to look at the chart and talk to the client and find out which one it could possibly be. So one of the biggest ideas I want you to leave here with tonight is that you can see parental signatures in a chart using houses 4 and 10. So as we go over them, keep in mind that typically the 4th house has a mom vibe, and you're going to see why, and the 10th house usually has a sort of dad vibe. But again, it can be flipped depending on what you're choosing to, how you're choosing to interpret them. Okay, so for the 4th house, again, it's mom, it's family matters, it's anything involving your parents as a whole. Any kind of parental conditioning. What did your parents tell you to do or not do? What did they encourage? What did they discourage? All of those things are part of the 4th house. Any kind of influences that your parents had on you, good or bad, folks, they're both in there. The 4th house also has a lot to do with our blood family. I always like to talk about the family that we choose versus the family we're stuck with. I mean, maybe we can have a more positive outlook on it than that, but our blood family is typically part of the 4th house. And this includes any kind of pedigree, meaning if we have a family line, and for most of us, it doesn't mean all that much, but like, if you have a family who's been in generations and generations and I think of the royal family, like they have a pedigree. Okay, so pedigree is a 4th house term you can use for that. Your family foundation, again, good or bad, can be here in the 4th house. Anything involving your domestic life. One of the most important things about the fourth house I can tell you is that the fourth house deals with our private lives. Not everyone is going to see you when you're in a particular place because you're at home. And at home, you can be yourself. It's your safe space. You can do what you want, and people aren't going to judge you there, ideally, right? Well, when you're dealing with home, that's your private life coming out. And so you need to understand that that is an area of your life that you're likely not going to show with anybody else unless you're close enough to that person to live with them. So domestic affairs is a part of the fourth. Also, the home itself. So if you remember back when I talked about the second house, I said the second house is about possessions. The only possession that really is not part of the second house is the fourth, is the home. The home is part of your fourth house. That's why we often call the second house the house of movable possessions. Now, I know there are people out there who are going to say, oh, yeah, you could pick up my house and move it. And sure, that does happen sometimes. But astrologically speaking, your home is considered a fourth house idea. It's where you live. It's where you live your private life. Because of the strong parental influence in this chart, your childhood traits and habits and your childhood memories are also part of the fourth house. So you can look at a chart and get an idea of how good or bad or challenging or different or interesting someone's home life was. The fourth house represents a residence, a place where you live. Now, for those of you who are business-minded, when I say house, I also mean real estate. So a lot of times people who are realtors or brokers or who deal with commercial rent, anything involving rental property and real estate is part of the fourth house. And when we talk about our home life, we often think about times where we had challenges at home or things that made us feel good at home, and that goes into sentimentality or nostalgia. So one of the things you can think of, so I'll give an example. So for me, my mom always used to make orange juice for us from a can, and it was Donald Duck orange juice. And no, I'm not really kidding. It did actually exist. And that's one of the things I remember. She also used to make Morton honey buns for us, like usually
That's
on the
still a
weekend.
thing.
Is that still a thing?
I buy it at Smart and Final.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So that's something that's sentimental or nostalgic for me because I had it as a kid. But any kind of nostalgia or sentimentality, that's part of the fourth house. The idea of being nurtured or protected is part of the fourth house. Ideally, your private life, your fourth house protects you from outside people, not just security-wise, but your privacy. To a certain extent, you can also include your chosen family in the fourth house. These are people who are super close to you, okay, who are not blood relatives. Not everybody falls into this category. The barista at Starbucks that isn't going to fall into that category, but somebody you went to high school with or middle school with, who you're still in touch with, who's a very big part of your life, that person could be part of the fourth house also. Anything involving land or property, as I said a moment ago, if you're buying and selling real estate, the fourth house is going to be super important for you. I have some clients who often want to know when they're going to move, when they're going to buy or sell a house. And the fourth house ruler is very important when we're looking at anything real estate-wise. Your instinctive response is part of the fourth house. Remember that the fourth house deals with our upbringing. And so any response, any knee-jerk response, can often show up in the fourth house. The things that will live on after us, the idea of a legacy, that's part of the fourth house too. Then anything involving the home, household items, or your home environment, all of those things are part of the fourth house. So when we look at the fourth house, there are a lot of things that we could certainly talk about. But I want you to understand that your fourth house is often what lives on after you pass away and your home environment. And so, for example, if you have Uranus in your fourth house, that probably means that you had an upbringing that was quite turbulent. Either you moved a lot, or things in your home were changing quite a bit all the time. You were pulled in a million different directions. That's a very Uranus thing. And so if you have the Uranus in the fourth house, you might have moved around quite a bit, and you might have been subjected to a lot of push me, pull you, a lot of different being pulled in different directions. If you have something like the sun in the fourth house, then maybe you just like being at home. You just prefer being a homebody. It can also indicate someone who likes to be at home for work. If you have a fourth house, maybe you want a job that is telework. We often will see that for people. If you have the moon in the fourth house, the moon we've talked about before often represents mom. And so what I would be wondering about is, what is your connection to mom and home and your childhood home? Like, I would be asking questions like that. And one of the charts that I'm going to talk to you about tonight has a strong mother signature that we're going to see. And again, I know none of you are professional astrologers, but I can tell you it's when I point it out, it's gonna smack you in the face because it's super obvious. And when I tell you who it is, you may not be surprised, but you'll see the power of it. So the moon in the fourth, the moon is very comfortable in the fourth because of the connection with mom. And so I would often ask about, what are the connections to mom when you have the moon in the fourth? If you have Venus in the fourth, maybe you like to have a home that's super comfortable, or maybe you want to buy a home that's super expensive. Maybe you want to entertain in your home. Like, those are all possible Venus things. If you have Mars in the fourth, then likely you're not going to want to work out, buddy, because likely you're going to want to either work out at home or work out in private where no one can see you. And I know a lot of people who are like this. I feel like I don't necessarily want people listening to me while I'm on my Peloton either, not only because I swear a blue streak, but also because I'm trying to inspire myself, and I don't need anyone else to hear that. If you have Jupiter in the fourth, maybe you enjoy travel so much that your home is just a place where you are when you're not traveling. You might have a bit of wanderlust about it. So as you look at the fourth house and you look at the planets there, and of course the planet on the cusp, the sign on the cusp of the fourth, we could talk about that later. But what you really want to look at is, remember, with houses, there are three important things we look at. One, we look at the ruling planet. We look at the sign on the cusp. We look at the ruling planet. And the third thing is optional. If there are any planets in the fourth house, then you look at them. So if you don't have any planets in the fourth, that's okay. It doesn't mean you're going to be homeless, right? It just means that there isn't going to be a lot of activity there. In my case, I actually have Taurus on the cusp of the fourth house, and I happen to have Venus as the ruling planet. Venus in Scorpio, which is not really very good. It's very challenged. And one of the things that I'm 52 years old, and one of the things that I have not done is buy a house, because that's going to be a struggle for us. So I have to get stuck renting, which a lot of people do. I'm sure I'm not alone. But the idea is that for us, I've kind of resigned myself to the fact that, well, until I get a really good transit that's possible for buying, or I move somewhere else, because in Washington, D.C., in my county, homes are about $1 million each, and there's no way I can afford that. Then I'm not going to be buying a home. So I may be stuck renting, and if so, that's fine. But the condition of that fourth house ruler, Venus in Scorpio, is not particularly good. It struggles. And so I've accepted the fact that not forever, right? I haven't said I'll never do it, but if I get the opportunity to buy a home, I will probably have to take advantage of it, because there won't be too many opportunities for me to do that. Just my guess, but we'll see. Hopefully I'm wrong. Also, Uranus is the idea of being shaken up, right? It's that electric kind of energy. Well, not too long ago, I had Uranus enter my fourth house. And let's say this, Uranus has an 84-year cycle, ladies and gentlemen. So he's going to go through all your houses. If you live that long, he's going to go through all your houses once. Well, when he becomes angular, when he moves from the third into the fourth house, for example, it's a shakeup. So what ended up happening for me was, at that time, I was applying for a job here in Las Vegas, actually. Now, I didn't get the job, But I was really convinced that the Uranus moving into the 8th house was an unexpected move into to another place. I didn't know where it was, but I thought it was Vegas. Well, it turns out that year, my home-based astrology business went crazy. It was very, very good. And it was a home-based business, and Uranus came in. So it shook everything up. So again, even as astrologers, folks, I keep saying this, we have to deal with our transits too. We don't get a pass just because we know what's coming. And even sometimes when we think we know what's coming, I was completely wrong on that one. My astrology teacher was like, oh, tell me how your astrology business is going. And I was like, well, it's going gangbusters. And she was like, can you do that at home, right? And I was like, yeah. She's like, yeah, so there you go. So it's always good when your teacher can kind of nicely bring you down a notch.
Right. I have Uranus and Neptune in my 4th house.
So Uranus can provide a lot of home turbulence. Like it means that there may be a lot of things happening all the time. Neptune is really interesting too, because did you have any relatives who were addicts?
Relatives? Yeah. My parents were both addicts for a long time. My dad, I think, still is. I don't know.
Okay. Well, Neptune on a more negative side, Neptune is the planet of addiction. And if it's in that house of domestic matters and parenthood, a lot of times that'll happen. So it wouldn't necessarily be for you, but it would be for people around you, for your parents and stuff. So that makes sense. The other thing about Neptune in the 4th is you have to be very careful about how you approach the 4th house. What I mean by that is you have to realize that nothing was as good as you think it was. Like when you talk about home, you can't get so nostalgic about it that you're like, oh, everything. No, it was great. They were both addicts, but we had a good time. Like if you put a positive spin on it, Neptune can sometimes do that. So,
Yeah, no, I don't do that.
Okay.
So
Excellent. The other thing that Neptune in the 4th can be is problems with water in your home. Oftentimes pipes or flooding, or that'll sometimes happen. I know it happened to me it happened to a friend of mine by transit, and his house flooded within a month of Neptune moving into his 4th.
I had a problem with one of the pipes burst this past winter, but they use flexible ones here, so it just kind of tore, and then it was a really cheap fix anyway.
Oh, that's good at least.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I did rent a house before I moved to Colorado. I rented a house, and they hadn't had the septic. It was out in the middle of nowhere. They hadn't had the septic dumped in, like, the guy that came to do it finally said it has to have been over 25 years. And he said, even then, everyone in this valley's been probably shitting at this house if they say it was 25 years ago. Like, this is a long time. And it was backing up so much nastiness into the shower and stuff. It was gross.
Ugh. Yeah, that kind of thing Neptune can bring out, especially if it's a secret, like if it's something that nobody knew and then it gets revealed. Neptune is good for that too.
Yeah, that happened right when I moved in. So that was a surprise.
Okay.
But luckily, I was renting.
Patrick, I could see that too. When Pluto transiting your 4th, your adopted parents died. Yeah, that's a pretty extreme impact. But yeah. And keep in mind, folks, a planet like Pluto, if it comes into your 4th, it's going to stay there for quite a while. Because remember, Pluto only goes 2 degrees a year. That's the average. So it's going to stay in that place for a while. And death is not the first thing I go to when it comes to Pluto, but that is something that can happen. So the 4th house is super, super important. It has a lot to do with mom and dad, upbringing, your home itself, your private life, all of those parts of you that you don't necessarily share with other people. Those are part of the 4th house. And just as a reminder, the 4th house is an angular house. So it tends to be stronger than the others, meaning that it tends to have planets that are in there stick out, tends to have more of an impact. So if you have nothing in your fourth, that's fine. I don't have anything in my fourth either. But as I said earlier, the ruling planet of my fourth is Venus in Scorpio, and that really says a lot. And actually, the fourth house doesn't actually represent your spouse's house. It represents the home that you happen to be living in, and any kind of real estate. If you're real estate transactions, then yes. If you're, like I said, especially if you're a home-based entrepreneur, your fourth house is going to be particularly important. And more of those are happening because of technology, where people don't have to go to work comes to them. So the fourth house, again, it's an angular house. It's going to be important. Here's a final note there. If you see a planet that is close to the edge of the fourth house, I'm talking about within 5 degrees of that fourth house cusp, you are going to want to pay very close attention to that planet, because that planet is going to have probably an outsized impact on the chart. And the couple of the charts that I read that I have for you tonight have planets that fit that. So I'll point those out when we get there. Questions about the fourth house from anybody before I move to the 10th?
So I think I have two. I think I have the cusp and I think Pisces is my fourth, it says, and then the cusp says Aquarius.
Okay. So what sign's on the cusp? Aquarius?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, fourth house cusp Aquarius.
Okay, so that'd be the hippie house.
Oh, that makes sense for me.
Yeah.
That makes so much sense for me.
That's kind of an eclectic.
And I love Sebastopol. Cheech and Chong was like my favorite growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that would make sense. If you have, for example, like if you've got, for example, Virgo on the edge of that house, you might be very, very picky about how you want your house cleaned, or how you leave it, or how you organize it. Depending on where Mercury is and what sign Mercury is in, Virgo can do that. So you might be a little OCD about your house if Virgo is on the cusp there. Virgo on that cusp can also indicate someone who wants to be healthy at home. So it could mean home workouts. It could mean they eat healthier when they're at home. Any of those things.
Super cool.
All right.
Thank you.
So let's take a look. Sure. Let's take a look at the 10th next. So remember a while back, I told you that the houses all come in pairs, right? One is one side of the coin, the other is the other side of the coin. Okay. So traditionally, if the fourth house is mom, then the 10th house is going to be dad. So what you're going to see is you're going to see a lot of things involving dad and your public life out here, because your fourth house is your private life. People don't get to see that unless you show them. Your reputation, for example, is part of the 10th. So as I look at my notes for the 10th, I'm talking about the outer image. People what they see in you, how other people see you, is really the 10th house. If you are going to be a parent, the kind of parent that you're going to be can be part of the 10th house. The 10th house can also represent your relationship with your parents, but also your relationship with authority figures. Okay? How do you get along with people who are prominent? Okay? Any kind of career stuff you're going to find in the 10th. So that is where we look for what we call vocational aptitude. In other words, if you have the sun in the 10th, right, then in many cases, you're going to want to be the boss. It's like you're going to want to have your own business. You're going to want to make sure that you're going to want to make sure that you're in control, which may be hard. It may be hard for you to work for other people if you have that in there. If you're talking about Mercury in the 10th, I know somebody with Mercury in the 10th who is a police dispatcher. That's what she does for a living. She's got Mercury in the 10th. It makes complete sense. It's Mercury in Virgo. It's incredibly strong, and all she does is talk all day long. but she's the one who handles 911 calls. So like she's she's very prominent in her work. Everybody knows who she is, and so the 10th house is not a place where you're going to be able to hide anything. Okay?
What if it's Lilith in Virgo?
Now that's really interesting.
Mine's Lilith and Virgo in my 10th.
So that would mean likely that you'd be an outstanding girl boss.
Oh, I believe that with all my whole heart.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So with Lilith, though, you have to proceed carefully because she's not one to be trifled with. However, yeah, I wouldn't want to mess with your career. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've had one lady try me when I was at a thing, and yeah.
I get that. But yes, when we're looking to tell people what to do with their lives, we often look at the sign on the cusp of the 10th, where the ruler of that sign is, what planet it is, and also any planets in the 10th. So,
what does it mean if you also have a Venus in 10th?
Oh, okay. So Venus in the 10th, likely that's something where you're going to be working with. So first of all, it probably means that you need creativity in the job. Like you need to be able to do your own thing. But also Venus there also indicates that your ability to be nice, your ability to be kind to people, your Venusian qualities are going to be very front and center in any job you're in. But okay, cool. Again, it can be kind of it requires kind of a creative. A lot of times, it requires some kind of creative outlet, okay, at work. But when you're talking about the 10th, career, your career advancement, anytime you're talking about promotion, any professional honor that you have, or that those are all part of the 10th house. Because the 10th is such an important house socially, it can represent self-discipline or your ability to rise to the occasion. Okay. And yeah, if you have a Sag midheaven, Patrick, Don't Fence Me In is your song. Yeah, exactly. It probably means you don't stay in one job particularly long. So Thunderstorm, I can give you an example, but I'm going to do that once I get finished with this explanation because I have two charts to show you today. One is a regular person and one is a very powerful person. So actually, they're both pretty powerful people, but anyway. But the 10th house also deals with anything involving a big organization, hierarchy. You know, when you're in a company, when you work for a company, everybody knows who's who in the zoo, right? Everybody knows what the pecking order is. Who has the power? Who's here? Who's here? Who's here? Where do you fall? Are you low person on the totem pole? That sort of thing. The 10th house deals with all of that hierarchical stuff. It deals with anybody in high places. So if you know somebody who's very influential, like that's something that might show in your 10th. Any big organization, and that includes the government, is part of the 10th. So a lot of times people who have a heavy 10th will go into government service. Okay. Any title you have, any responsibility, titles and responsibilities are always part of the 10th. Okay. Any of your long-range goals can go in there. And what you're going to find is that when you look at the 10th house, it's about how people see you, right? But it's also about how people judge you and what they judge you for. So if you've got Mercury in the 10th, then likely paperwork or communications are a big part of your job. If you've got Venus there, your ability to be incredibly customer service oriented and friendly and warm are likely going to be important parts to your job. If you have Leo, for example, on the midheaven, Leo is one of the most natural signs for leadership and management. So likely people who have that on the cusp are going to want to be in charge.
I have it on my cusp. My 10th house. Yeah.
Yeah. If you have it, likely, again, depending on where the sun is, we can see the focus of it. But a lot of times with people, you're going to find that if they have Leo on the cusp of that house, they're going to want to be in charge. And if they have the sun in the 10th, same idea. CEO,
that is
boss.
Dead ass me. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, you'll find that often. And the thing is that if you have Mercury up there, again, it depends on what sign Mercury is in. So thunderstorm, yes, Mercury is debilitated in Pisces, which means likely when it comes to work, you may be better at communicating in a subtle way rather than actually telling people things. You may be better at nonverbal communications than verbal. You may pick up on the energy in a room a lot better, but you don't, you may not speak as well. Like there are a number of ways you can go with that, depending on how it plays out. But the 10th is a much more public place. It's our, it's our public life. It's our reputation. It's the organization, like for our career, it's organizations we belong to, but it is also our vocational aptitude. And you can look at charts all day long, just judging for vocational aptitude. Like, what are these people going to be good at? And that's really something that is important, especially when you get younger clients. Like I'll often have clients who want me to look at their charts of their kids to kind of help them, guide them to the right thing that they're supposed to be doing. And vocational astrology is a lot based on the sign that's on the cusp of the 10th, plus any planets in the 10th and the ruler of the 10th. Okay, that has a lot to do with your public life and reputation. If you have the moon, for example, in the 10th, likely you're going to want to work with the public because the moon represents the public. So public service, working with others, is a lot of time. The 10th house is going to show that. Now, if you've got Saturn in the 10th, Saturn is one of those planets again, and we've talked about him before, and he can be very challenging in some ways. He can be very limiting for your career. If you have Saturn in a debilitated sign, especially like if you've got Saturn in Cancer or Saturn in Leo sitting in the 10th house, that may mean that your career may take a lot longer to coalesce. It may mean that you're not going to get promoted as quickly, or you might find that certain places are just not to your liking. Also, if Saturn is debilitated, you have to be very, very careful of not stepping on toes at work and respecting people's boundaries, because that's an area where you could really get hammered if you're not careful. But again, if Saturn's debilitated like that, especially if it's in the 10th, you just have to be aware of what the boundaries are and the line between work and home, especially. Questions so far? Originally, Thunderstorm, I'm from Boston, but I live currently in Washington, D.C., and I'm currently in Las Vegas. And my mind is currently in Paris, but you didn't ask me that. All right. So let's take a look at the couple of charts I have today. So I'm on my laptop, of course. I'm home on my big computer, but we're going to see if this works. Please hold. Pull up my chart here.
Susan says, what does nothing in these houses mean?
So nothing in the houses means, honestly, not a whole lot. It just means that there's not going to be a lot of activity necessarily there for you. That's really what it comes down to, folks. You don't have to be too concerned about it, but it also means that we need to look at the sign on the cusp of that house to really find out what the deal is with how the 10th or 4th is working. Okay. So can everybody see the chart? Angela, you're muted. Can you see it?
No, I'm gonna share the thing. Let me just hold
okay.
on. What did I just do? Oh no. Go back. Undo. Undo. Why won't you undo? Sorry, it won't let me share it. Undo it.
Sorry, guys. I got kicked out.
I don't know what I just did, Kristen. I can't see anything anymore. I was trying to share the screen, and all I see is the background. I don't know.
I'm not seeing his screen popping up in StreamYard.
Hold on one second.
Is that
I can
why
see
I
you
can't?
though, Angela.
I can't see anything. What the heck? I'm gonna have to click out because I don't know what the heck I did. But
I
literally,
keep trying to post it. And it's not coming up.
Mercury difficulties.
Yep. Hold on a second.
No hold music. Yeah. I mean, we could.
Let me see here.
And there she went. She's back.
I don't know what I was doing.
There we go. It's like whack-a-mole today on the podcast.
Yeah, right. So can people see the chart or no? No? Okay. I keep trying to share and it won't let me share. So I'm really not sure what the deal is. But so what we're going to do is we're going to wing it, and I'm going to describe kind of what this person's chart is like. Okay. So I had a client who actually came in, and her first words to me, I had never met her before. Her first words to me were, "Okay, you need to tell me what the fuck is going on with my parents."
Oh, wow.
And so I looked at her chart, and I happened to notice that she had a lot of planets over the 4th and 10th house axis. In this particular case, she actually has Mars opposing her Saturn. She has Pluto very close to the cusp of the 4th and opposing her Saturn also. And she has an active 10th house as well. So you can actually see in that, just in that alone, that there's a lot of friction there. Like, you already know the parental signatures are going to be very hard. In her case, dad was just generally a scumbag. Mom was an abuser. So it's like, she really, when it comes to parental signatures, she probably has one of the more challenging charts that I've ever seen. But she has a lot of planets, especially Mars and Saturn, over that 4th, 10th axis. And so there's going to be a lot of challenging things that are going to transpire when you have that. Now, again, that doesn't mean that this person is doomed or they shouldn't be a parent or anything like that. It just means that they have a lot of crap that they've got to work through. The other thing I will say is that in this particular case, this is a chart of a woman, and she's in her early 20s, and she already is going to get a hysterectomy. Like, she does not want kids ever. Like, she's already decided. And I think a lot of that has to do with the really bad upbringing she's had. And so as you look and you see planets in the 4th and 10th, especially if they are opposing each other, that's where you really have to look at it and say, hey, what's going on with the parents? You will often see serial killers. Like, I have Ed Kemper's chart, and his victim was his mom. His mom berated him. His mom made fun of him, said he would never get laid, like, said all these nasty, nasty things to him. And eventually he snapped and he killed mom. And then mom's friend came over looking for her, and he killed her too. So when you see those 4th and 10th house signatures, you can often see challenges with mom and dad. Now, it could also be a really solid relationship with mom and dad too. Because remember, in a chart, mom is the moon and dad is the sun. And in some ways, dad is also Saturn. And so if you see those planets involved in the 4th and 10th, you should be really taking notice of what's going on. Now, the one chart that really kind of hit home for me was Prince, the musician. So Prince has Aquarius on the 4th house cusp. He has Leo on the 10th house cusp. Okay? Now, what is really interesting is that right at that cusp, he has his moon in Pisces in the 4th, and he has Pluto on the 10th. So let's break this down a little bit. So we've talked a little bit about Pluto and the moon, Pluto connecting with anything, right? It really calls for a very serious, strong connection. So you know that there was going to be an intense connection between Prince and his mom. Okay, well, one of the things that you'll see if you happen to go through, if you're a big Prince fan, and I am, one of the things that you'll learn about him is that he almost never mentions his mother in a song. Like, he hasn't written songs about his mom. Like, it's very rare to hear. One of the ones is when Doves Cry, he says, "Maybe you're just like my mother. She's never satisfied," is the line, right? But generally speaking, you don't hear about the guy's mother. And you'd think someone who's written that many songs, like, he's written all these amazing love songs too. Like, why doesn't he talk about his mother? Folks, it's called Pluto Moon opposed. The two of them are exactly opposed in the chart, almost exactly, over the 4th and 10th axis. So let's talk a little history here. So Prince was 12 years old when his mom decided to walk out. She left her husband, and left Prince, just up and left. Now, you knew that there was going to be an intense connection there, right? You just knew it. But it had a profound effect on him. He really, really was hurting, I suspect, when his mom left. And I'm guessing, but I don't really think he forgave her after that. The Pluto connection to the moon is very challenging. It can be, because it's so intense. He loved her so much, and he probably saw her leaving as a huge betrayal. So he was like, "All right, you're leaving. You're going to leave. You're not going to be a part of my life either." What is also interesting is that the Pluto is right next to the midheaven. So you know that as far as work goes, his career, like, he had the potential to be a big, big star. But he did it without mom. He did it, putting that aside. The other thing is, Leo is the sign of royalty, ladies and gentlemen. And what's the guy's name? I mean, it's Prince. When you see, if this is a chart that I may have to give you guys the data so you can go pull it and look at it yourself, but it is amazing. It's completely an amazing chart for somebody who is extremely talented. But that relationship with mom will hit you right over the head when you look at that chart. It is so incredibly clear. And so as you're looking at charts, if you see planets that are opposed over the 4th and 10th house, that's going to be some strong parental signatures. Again, not necessarily bad, either good or bad. But at that point, if Prince was my client, I would have started asking questions about mom right away. Like, okay, so what's the deal? Now, if we look at the moon in this chart is in Pisces. Pisces and Cancer kind of compete for the two most sensitive signs of the zodiac. So when you have the moon in Pisces, you're already exceptionally sensitive. And avoidance may be one of your big coping techniques. And so my guess is what probably at that point little Prince did was he probably said, "Okay, mom left. I'm putting her out of my mind, and I'm not thinking about her. And I'm riding on and doing my thing," because it was probably too painful for him to think about. Again, it's a very, very sensitive placement, which just makes that moon connection to Pluto that much more challenging. But anything on the cusp of the 4th and 10th houses, you're going to want to take a look at, because They're super important. I said the same thing about the 1st and 7th houses too. Anything within 5 degrees of that line, that ascendant descendant line, or in this case the ICMC line, the midheaven nadir line, it's gonna be a big deal. And you can often see things that come from the parents, that happen because of the parents, and people's private and public life are very focused. They're very focused when you are dealing with the 4th and 10th houses. So I apologize, for some reason I can't show these charts. I will be happy to give you the Princess chart if you want to pull it. Let me give you the data. It is, let's see, June 7th, 1958. And it's 6:17 p.m. Minneapolis. And I'm sure if you type in birth chart for Prince, it'll come up. Like it's out there. So feel free to use that and take a look at it if you wish. Like I said, I'm sorry I can't show it to you. For some reason, Mercury is screwing with us tonight. Oh, well. But that chart is a really good one to look at for 4th and 10th houses. Okay. What questions do people have for me? I guess I don't have the chart, so I can't go as long tonight, but but there it is.
That's
but I'm happy to take questions.
Anybody have any questions for John on what we've discussed today?
Yep.
We've got a lot of side quest questions.
Saturn and Mercury and Leo in the 10th midheaven. So boundaries in the workplace is important. Making sure that you are proceeding carefully at work is going to be important. Taking your time, even though you want to be an authority at work. Yeah. Mercury in Leo in the 10th. Watch what you say at work. Make sure you're not coming off conceited or arrogant, or you want to be super warm and generous at work. And when you speak to people, you want to speak to people that way. You want to communicate that. So that's definitely what I'll be looking at for Mercury and Leo in the 10th for sure.
Right, not Steph. We can all see how that applies.
Some things, and again, remember, those houses, right, are areas of effect, right? And the thing that's on the cusp, the sign that's on the cusp, is very, very important, you know. And you know, if a person has Pisces rising, can Gemini in some situations be considered their 4th house? Yes, but I'd have to see the chart because it really depends on where the person's born. You know, I'd have to say, before I say that, I would have to see it. But yeah, generally that could happen. Mm-hmm. Okay, Mercury conjunct Moon in the 10th, transit going on. Okay. Well, Dasha, that transit isn't going to last very long. If it's conjunct your Moon, Mercury and Moon transits are both very short. So you're not going to have to deal with it for long. You would just have to make sure that you're taking the temperature at work, making sure that you're not saying the wrong thing to the wrong person at the wrong time. That to me would almost be a warning of, who should I tell this to? You know, so I'd probably be giving up gossip for the next few hours or tomorrow, just until that happens. But yeah,
Perfect
folks,
piece of advice.
when you're dealing with transits, the Moon transits are super quick. Remember, the Moon takes 28 days to go around, and it catches the sun every time, right? 28.333 days, I think. And so what you really have to be aware of is that anything involving the Moon is going to end quick. It's going to start quick and end quick. If you're talking about outer planet transits, if you're talking about Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto, some of those transits can last for a long time. So when they move into a new house, or when they make a connection to one of your planets, that effect could be for years. As I've said before, I have Sun Pluto. I have the sun's Pluto squaring my natal sun right now, and that's going to be going on for the next 3 years or so, and it's going to change fundamentally who I am. That's just how it is, you know.
Oh no. Catherine says, my moon and Lilith are on opposite sides of my 10th with Daddy Saturn in the middle.
Okay. In what sign?
We'll wait for that info to come up. But Kara says, thanks for the advice. We have a bunch of stuff going on at work right now. I'll just stay in my office with my crystals.
Okay, Virgo. Okay. So Virgo moon, Catherine, is a little bit difficult to deal with because it always wants emotions to be proper. Okay, like what am I supposed to feel right now is often the question. And there can be a tendency to want to think away feelings instead of actually feeling with them and dealing with them. Saturn in Virgo also talks about the need for setting specific boundaries at work. So you might be a little OCD about work. You might be very extremely organized. Like you might be one of those people that everyone is like, oh God, she has everything squared away. She's super organized. Like I could see that too. When it comes to Lilith, Lilith in the 10th, I wouldn't be surprised if you did work that involved women or victims. You know, a lot of times with Lilith, it's being the girl boss, but it's also about being protective of others.
That's super funny that you say that. Because I've talked about how like, because we don't celebrate like holidays and things like that, but we've given to like battered women's shelters and stuff. Like my kids have made Easter baskets for them. We don't celebrate Easter, but we've given things to battered women's shelters all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, with Lilith prominent like that, I would expect it, you know.
Yeah, that's super neat. What if you have Cancer in your midheaven?
So Cancer midheaven likely means and what's the moon in?
Right. What is the moon in?
Your moon sign.
Cancer. Oh wait, my moon sign is Capricorn.
Okay, so you got the moon in Capricorn in what house?
Third.
Okay. So one of the things I could see for you is I could see potentially like bus driver, subway driver, somebody who works.
Oh wait, no, my midheaven is Leo. What the hell am I talking about?
Oh, Leo?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, again, that reinforces the boss idea. So where's the sun?
12th.
Okay.
Libra.
In Libra. Okay. So you want to be the boss, but you don't. You want to be the boss, but you don't want to be seen as the boss because that can be, you know. And then also, the best things you're going to do is, as a boss, you're going to have to be really good about connecting with people on an individual level, one-to-one level. If you can do that, then you'll be fine. But that 12th house also is one of our intuitive houses, probably a super sensitive house. So if you have the sun there, then likely you're going to get drawn into professions that are caring professions that involve intuition or guiding others or spirituality. Those are all.
Which technically I was a hospice worker for the last like 19 years.
Oh, yeah.
I totally knew like when people were going to pass.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And that 12th house is the house of long-term illness also, by the way, Angela.
Oh, shit. For me?
Well, for anybody.
Oh.
Yeah, not for you, but you have the sun there and you worked with people with long-term illness.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Now I see what you're saying.
I mean,
yeah, dementia.
That's what I was going for. I was not trying to scare the shit out of you.
That's why I was like, wait, does that mean I have long-term illness? No. Well, sometimes I feel like their dementia be rubbing off on me because I'd be like, wait, what? I don't even remember stuff.
Hey, listen, I have Sagittarius on the 12th house cusp, and I have a very powerful Jupiter in the 11th, and I have had liver cancer. And so Jupiter rules both the liver and tumors because they grow. And it's on the cusp of my 12th house. So, you know, once I got my diagnosis, I went, okay, that makes a weird kind of sense, but it does. You know, again, the idea is that when you're looking there, Also, I know some about medical astrology, but it's a completely separate discipline on its own. So I definitely encourage people, if you're interested in that. I know some medical astrologers I can recommend. But
Wow.
Thunderstorm, I'm not looking at people's personal charts tonight, hun. Sorry. I don't have time, and I wouldn't want to do that in front of everybody, because a lot of times things come up that are super private, and I don't want to put your details out there either.
Yeah.
But you could certainly
said,
call me privately, and I'm happy to do your chart for you. Sure.
Absolutely. Susan says she has nothing in the 4th and nothing in the 10th, but Mercury is right on the line between 10 and 11. 18 degrees. What does that mean?
So is it in the 10th or is it in the 11th? That's the question. So if it's right on the line, it really depends on what is on the cusp of that house. If it's Mercury in the 10th, it can mean the idea is that Mercury is going to be a big part of your work life, emails, communications, etc. If it's in the 11th, then it's going to be about speaking to groups, talking to groups, being interested in clubs, that sort of thing. But yeah, it really depends on what side it falls on.
I have nothing in the 10th and nothing on the cusp.
Sometimes you don't. But the important thing is, when you're looking at your chart, to take things with a grain of salt. If you look up meanings online, don't freak out, because you're going to have to realize that all astrologers are a little different, and you don't really want to freak out over any one thing that's important. Don't. I mean, especially if it's something like Pluto. Like, you don't want to freak out over Pluto. You don't want to freak out over anything, but you want to be absolutely certain that you understand the interpretation. So I say, go online, talk to people, look at what they say, and then go to an astrologer and have them give you an overall view of what's going on. Because we could talk about Mercury in the 10th or Mercury in the 11th or whatever all day long, but to see the whole of it, to synthesize all of it, is what we're trained to do. It's not just looking at one discrete point. There are a lot of things I don't know until I see the chart. And so I always tell people, the chart, you can look at the chart in a vacuum, but likely you're not going to get as much out of it as if you actually sit down and talk to an astrologer about it. Me or somebody else.
Because the energies that are present can manifest, differently from individual to individual. You can have the same placement at the same degrees, but different things in your charts that will completely make your lives manifest differently from one another. Mm-hmm. So it's just a blueprint. You get to work with
it. Is.
Yes,
you have to work with the cards you're dealt, ladies and gentlemen. That is the biggest thing I can tell you. I have some placements. I've got Capricorn moon on my ascendant. Okay, like, I can't hide that shit. It's right there. My emotions are on my face all the time. There's nothing I can really do about that. So what I did was I trained myself to be more warm, be more fatherly, be more accepting, and it really, really helped. Because if people are going to see it, I want them to see it in a positive way. Capricorn moon is very, very challenging. It's a very challenging moon position.
Yep.
It's not easy. But once again, it has the most potential for growth, because you have to work at it. So you're stuck with the chart. You're stuck with the birth chart you have. But if you are able to work with the chart that you have in a positive way and not look at it as a negative, you'll do just fine. You'll do very, very well. And that's the one thing I say to people: be very, very careful when you're talking to people about your chart, because I don't want people to come away freaked out. My job as an astrologer is to empower you. It's not to say, dude, your chart sucks, have a nice day. Like, no. My job is to help you to use your chart in the best way possible. And even if you've got a lot of difficult placements, folks, we all have transits that come through our lives. And so part of what I do is forecasting. Like, okay, here's a transit coming up. How do you use it? How does it work? How can I put it to the best use so I can benefit? And that's the big thing, folks. It's being able to use what you have instead of wishing you had a different chart, because wishing ain't gonna help. That was one of the things we talked about in astrology college all the time was, hey, I got this. Well, I got this. Well, I'd trade charts with you any day because I'd rather have this than this, you know? But yeah, so astrologically speaking, folks, I highly encourage you to talk to an astrologer or even more than one, because all of us use different techniques and we favor different things. So when you go to one astrologer, you're going to get a certain look. And if you're not, if it didn't feel right or doesn't feel like it fits you, you can always talk to another astrologer. Also, you can also check your birth time because a lot of times the birth time is wrong. And then we end up telling people things and they're like, that doesn't sound like me at all. Well, because the birth time was wrong.
Yeah.
That happens.
Yeah.
Yep. And that can be very important. The birth time. It is important if you want to get good details about your chart.
Yes. Yeah. And especially about the transits and when they're happening. If your chart is wrong, then it's going to be, then the timing's going to be off.
Yeah.
But again, I highly encourage you to start by looking at your own chart, know your chart well, see what's going on. I have been looking at my chart for years. And every time I look at it, I feel like I see something new.
Yeah.
And that's a great thing. It also can be challenging. So yeah. But again, use this as a tool for empowerment. It is not designed to make you feel bad about yourself or make you feel like you're screwed. One of the most challenging charts I've ever seen is a lady who had a grand trine, which is 3 planets in a big triangle. And they were all in water signs and they were all challenging placements. I mean, this young lady really, really, really struggled. She's doing well now, but like in her youth, she had a very hard time. And so like you can see that, but she's learning how to use those planets in as positive a way as you can. So
it's all about growth. That's why we're here.
Yep.
Yeah, that's when they did mine when Lisa did mine and Kristen's birth charts, it said the same thing. We chose really difficult childhoods, but look at us now.
Yeah, I mean,
we're growing.
Yeah, again, you get dealt certain cards astrologically, but you choose how you play them.
Yeah, 1, 2, 3, as you said that.
Give in to the negative of a particular thing. So
that's why I think what he's saying too, Thunderstorm, is why it's important, because like when we had our birth charts done, they showed like a lot, like the person who did it, she even asked me before doing it, like, do you feel comfortable with me sharing it? Because I had no idea. That was my first time ever having my birth chart read to me. I didn't even realize, like, I always called it the blueprint, but I didn't realize how much it really was. Like, it showed like the whole 10 years of me being in foster care, me being basically like a ward of the state. Like, all of these things were in my birth chart, the relationships that I have with my mom and dad. Like, so that's why I get why he's like, you probably want to do it privately because you don't know what you're going to get. But also, same with like the palm reading. Steph did my palm reading, and I had no idea from just my hands that you can see, just like in the birth chart, like what you go through at like all stages of your life, which is really amazing. So
yeah,
I think it's important that if you do want it, definitely maybe do it privately first in case you don't want people to know things.
Yeah, that's always a good idea, because we do bring up things that are very private.
Yeah, I cried literally in mine. I cried in both my reading and in my palm reading because it's very emotional stuff that comes up. So
yeah. All right, people. Well, I will look forward to seeing you next time. So next time in 2 weeks, we'll look at houses 5 and 11.
Okay, 5 and 11.
Pull some more charts, and ideally, I'll find a way to show the chart. If not, I can send people I can send you guys copies and you could send them out or something. I don't know. We'll figure it
We
out.
can just post it in the group,
Yeah.
the Ancestral Ascension community,
Yeah.
and put them in there and say this is for tonight's podcast. Like, there you go.
Yeah,
All right.
that
Outstanding.
works. Well, thank
right.
you, John. All right,
Thanks,
everybody.
Appreciate it.
We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, you are sovereign. You are divine. So stand in your power and let your fucking light shine. We love you guys, and we'll see you next time. Love you
Yeah.
guys. See you
Thanks, everybody.
tomorrow. Bye. Thank you, John.